The scariest thing about turning 30 isn't getting older. It's realizing you are the same man you were at 20. And here's the brutal truth most men don't want to hear. If you have not changed by the age of 30, you most likely never will. And that's because the habits, the identity, and the mindset you have going into your 30s will be the blueprint you have for the rest of your life. You either evolve or you start decaying while pretending you are fine. If you watch this video all the way through, I can promise you, you will have a clearer vision on the person you have to become in order to live the life you need to live. Okay, most men spend their 20s seeking validation through women, through instant gratification, and through low-class pleasures. Then they wake up at 30 realizing they've built an identity on sand. The issue is most men in their late 20s, early 30s realize that what used to excite them, like women, short-term pleasures, video games, going out, getting drunk, having fun, all these things feel so hollow and feel so empty. You start to crave peace, attention, focus, direction. That is your higher self calling you to evolve. There comes a point where you stop chasing and you start building. All these low-class pleasures that you used to indulge in, they don't bring you that same happiness that they did. They don't bring you that same excitement that they once used to. And when you start to have that shift, your identity starts to shift. You move from performing to becoming, from impressing others to mastering yourself, from consuming to creating. This is where discipline becomes your new dopamine. You have to root your identity in your purpose, discipline, and character. You start to think long term instead of how am I going to get through the day today? What am I going to do that is fun today? That is the mindset in your 20s. You're just trying to have fun. You're trying to discover yourself and you just want to have a good time. You think you have infinite time in your 20s. I'm 29 right now. And when I turned 20, I was on my own. I had a decent job. I was making money and I didn't really think long term. I didn't think about who I wanted to be in 5 to 10 years, what I wanted my body to look like, what I wanted my finances to look like. I was so worried about chasing tail. What party am I going to go to? Which bar I'm going to hit up? Which restaurant I'm going to go to? Which event? All I cared about is having fun. And like I said, I'm 29, so I see that, in hindsight, that was the worst thing to do. There are a lot of people, not a whole lot. It's actually a very minority of people who are locked in and focused in their 20s. But you have to lock in and focus in your 30s because like I said in the beginning, if you don't, you're going to miss the train. And I see a lot of people in their 20s now, early 20s. My cousin, for example, he just turned 20 and all he cares about is the things I just talked about, smoking, going out, drinking, having fun, partying, taking girls out, all these things. And I try to talk to him and I'm like, listen, man, I understand you're in your 20s. I was literally in my early 20s a few years ago. Listen to me when I say this. Focus on the boring. Focus on the mundane tasks that you do not want to do. Focus on building a business, building confidence, building systems that will help get you to where you want to be. And he said, yeah, I will for sure. And, I tried to guide him and tell him exactly what to do in order to make the most out of his 20s. And he just doesn't listen. You can take a horse to water, but you can't force them to drink. And I want you guys who are especially in your early 20s or even mid 20s to really listen and to focus and to take note of what I'm saying in this video, because this video could literally change your life if you really take it serious and you don't just listen to it. You really understand it, and you really take action. Because for me, looking back at my 20s, for the most part, I do regret my 20s. I wish I had more focus and more discipline. There was zero discipline in my 20s. That's not to say, I absolutely did fuck all. No, I went to the gym. I took care of myself in that sense. I built quality relationships, and I understood a lot about who I am and what I want out of life. But for the most part, my purpose, that was non-existent. My purpose in my 20s was just to have fun, and I know there's a lot of people out there who turn 30 and beyond, and they still have that mentality of a 20-year-old of, I just want to have fun. I want to put all this work stuff off. I want to like come back from work, scroll on my phone, watch Netflix, and they don't really have a long-term plan. They don't know who they're going to be or what their life is going to look like in 5 to 10 years. People who achieve great results in life, I'm talking about, billionaires, Fortune 500 companies, visionaries, people who really succeed in life. They have the same 24 hours you and I have, but the thing about them is they really prioritize their time. Not 1 second of their time goes missing. They know where that time is. Instead of scrolling, they're reading. Instead of mindlessly playing video games or entertaining some random chick, they're building businesses. They're thinking about long-term goals, how they're going to get there, what system they can put in place to help them achieve that goal. And all of these things seem so fucking boring day to day. But if you compound these boring days, after a few years, you are leaps and bounds further than anybody else, right? And that's the secret, is focus on the boring, focus on these mundane tasks. And the thing is, your mindset will shift. It won't be an uphill battle the whole time. Over time, instead of craving that dopamine of like playing video games and smoking and drinking and going out, your dopamine is discipline. Every time you wake up early, every time you read a book, every time you go to the gym, you are getting dopamine hits. You can rewire your brain to actually help you, but it takes time, it takes consistency, and it takes a lot of willpower in order to shift that mindset. And that's why I told you, most people don't change. And that's why the train leaves by the time you're about 30. I'm not trying to scare you guys. I'm not trying to tell you, if you're 40, you're done for, you're finished. No, you can still change, but generally speaking, statistically speaking, you probably will not change. If you haven't changed by the time you're 30, what makes you change? What makes you think you're going to change at 40? And if you're 30 and you're thinking like a 20-year-old, it's like you're an old infant. I'm 29 and I'm still working on my mindset. I'm trying to shape my mindset because I can have all this knowledge, but I could just do nothing with it, and that's what I did for the most of my 20s. And that's the sad part. It's like I knew that I was, pissing my life away. I knew that I was just chasing dopamine, and I wasn't really chasing anything that was going to last. And I am filled with regret because of that. But I am not going to carry, the heavy burden of my past into my future, and you shouldn't either. Even if you regret what you did in your 20s or in your 30s, you can always change. You have that power to change now. So, drop the excuses, drop the baggage, and muster up the courage to say, I'm going to change, not tomorrow, not next week, today, because you have to take radical action. You have to be absolutely obsessed with where you are going and the goals you are trying to achieve in order to achieve it. And you have to ask yourself, what am I trading my life for? Because we are all trading our lives for something. We are trading our lives for our goals, for who we want to be, for what we want to achieve and become. Or are you trading your life for dopamine, for scrolling on your phone day and night, for scrolling on dating apps all day long, for playing video games, for smoking, going out and getting a few drinks? That doesn't just cost you time and money. That also takes a hit on your health. So I also want you to realize there will be a lot of resistance when you are trying to change. Maybe your family's like, why are you doing what you're doing? Your friends are definitely going to speak up. They're going to tell you, who is this person that you're trying to become? It's because you're changing your identity. You're changing the person you've been being for the longest time. And that is scary for your friends and your family because that sort of exposes them. If you start doing good, you start taking care of your body and your mindset, and you start building a business, your friends are going to be like, well, we're still the same. Why are you changing? So they're going to try to hold you back. And not only that, your previous self, your former self, is going to hold you back. It's going to do everything in its power to not have one shackle broken. Okay, it's going to say, you've done enough. I think you can go to sleep now. You can rest. All right, now you can scroll a little bit. You've been working for a little bit now. Okay, take it easy. That's your previous self. That's your ego. Okay, you don't want to kill the ego. You want to lay it to rest. Okay, you want it to lay it to rest. Okay, because your ego has helped you up until this point. It's protected you, right? So you don't want to hate it, but it no longer serves you. It's always going to hold you back from trying. When you're trying to become the person you want to be, it's going to hold you back because that means you are letting go of your previous self. And that's a scary thing for your ego. It's called an ego death. It does not want to die. It always wants to survive. So it's going to give you every excuse in the book on why you should not change. It's going to tell you, who do you think you are? Why are you doing what you're doing? You think this is going to make a lasting change? And if you screw up, it's going to say, see, I told you so. Why even try? I'm telling you guys, it's going to make every excuse fathomable to keep you where you are at. It loves safety. It loves knowing that nothing can harm it, and the devil is better than the devil you don't. When you're becoming a new person, you are stepping into the unknown. It's unknown territory. Okay. You're going to become a new person. You're going to have new experiences. You're going to build a new life. And that is all unknown. Okay. And the ego hates that. So realize when you are trying to sit down and do your work, there's going to be constant chatter in your mind saying, why are you doing what you're doing? Okay, go take a break. Don't do that anymore. And that's the resistance that you have to be able to push through. Because like I said, with time, your mind will change and it will start helping you. Okay, but only with time. So we have to stay consistent. So with that being said, guys, I really want to hit home that point of you really have to wake up and you have to really want to change if you want your life to change. And hopefully it's sooner than later. And I hope this video really woke you up to, the potential that you have. I want to finish this video off by saying, your 20s is about discovering who you are. And your 30s is about deciding who you will become. So start letting go of who you were and start becoming the man that you were meant to be. If this video resonated with you guys, give this video a thumbs up. It helps YouTube push this video out to more people. And consider subscribing to this channel. I'm going to come out with more personal development, self-improvement content to help you live a better, more fulfilling life. With that being said, guys, I appreciate you for watching this video, and I will see you all on the next one.